Hello fans, collectors, investors, welcome back to Iconic Baseball. I'm Iconic Al. It has been my honor to share my collection in this format as we count down the top 100 greatest and most iconic ball players of all time. Today we are at Mount Rushmore status. Number 4 on my countdown. This is quite simply the most fierce competitor the game has ever seen. Despite his faults, he must be considered a top 5 player of all time, and in my opinion, he's on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest and most iconic ball players in baseball history, owner of the highest batting average in baseball history at 366. He has compiled 151.5 WAR, over 4,000 hits. The man needs no introduction, the one and only Georgia Peach, the insatiable Ty Cobb.
Take me out to the ball game, take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Baseball to me was more work than play. In fact, it was all work. You see, I was lucky enough to lead the league when I was 20 years old. After that, I wanted to lead it every year. I never thought I was any genius, so I gave up my life to the game for 25 years. I suppose I was in nearly 30,000 plays, and I at least tried to think about every play and how it should be made. As I said before, you had to do more thinking in the old days when home runs were fewer. Games were close, and every play counted. The two most important things in base stealing are getting the jump on the pitcher and making your slide away from the baseman. In stealing bases, I always watched the baseman's eyes to know where the ball was coming. His eyes had to watch the ball. I didn't have the time for this, but his eyes told me, and then I knew where to throw my body away from the baseman. Well, you can't beat the Babe. Ruth is one of the few who can take a terrific swing and still meet the ball solidly. His timing is perfect. Lajoie was the hardest line hitter I ever saw, and I'd like to see Sam Crawford, Joe Jackson, and Frank Schulte lay against this modern ball.
Born in 1886 in Narrows, Georgia, and now ironically known as the Georgia Peach, Tyrus Raymond Cobb would become the most fierce competitor baseball has ever seen. From 1905 to 1928, playing his entire career with the Detroit Tigers, Cobb tallied dizzying numbers. Before we dive into those numbers, let's quickly address the elephant in the room, and that is a widely held belief in the game and in the hobby that Ty Cobb is a racist, that Ty Cobb is somehow a rotten person, and this is largely fed by inaccuracies. He has been demonized, villainized, and portrayed this way in film and literature, and as we've found out more recently, stories have been embellished and exaggerated. He has been made into some tall tale evil caricature. In the reading that I've done more recently, there's a great article on MLB.com that was published in 2016 that gives a more even-handed view of Ty Cobb as a person. Now, I'm not saying he was a saint. He was certainly abrasive, combative, difficult, and did not get along with many people in his life, including fellow players. He was a brawler. He was violent at times. But I think when you dig deeper and read and learn more about who Mr. Cobb was as a person, we see that he was, in fact, a human being. What we do know is his mother accidentally shot his father 3 weeks before he made his major league debut in 1905. Cobb later attributed his ferocious play to his late father, saying, quote, "I did it for my father. He never got to see me play, but I knew he was watching me, and I never let him down." If anyone wants to read that MLB.com article that uncovers a more accurate picture of Ty Cobb, I'm going to leave the link in the video description, so go ahead and check that out after this video. The bottom line, Ty Cobb approached the game like a war. He compiled a career WAR of 151.5. His career batting average of 366 is still the highest of any player in the history of baseball. He had an on-base percentage of .433 for a career. He won 12 batting titles, the most ever. He ended his career with 4,189 hits. This guy was a hitting machine, with 117 home runs during an era when home runs were not hit. He added 724 doubles, 295 triples. He drove in 1,944 runs, scored 2,245 runs. He had amazing speed and base running instincts, ended his career with an epic 897 stolen bases. Ty Cobb took every edge that he could get on the ball field, took every base he could get on the ball field, and he had great plate discipline. He walked 1,249 times, struck out 680 times. His more modern metrics only confirm his greatness: a 944 OPS and a 168 OPS plus. Mr. Cobb won the 1911 AL MVP and the 1909 Triple Crown Award. He had peak WAR seasons of 9.9 in 1909, 10.5 in 1910, 10.7 WAR in 1911, a 9.2 WAR in 1912, a 9.5 WAR in 1915, and 11.3 WAR in 1917. Just amazing production. Despite a stellar 368 batting average in the 1908 World Series, Cobb ended his career without a World Series championship. He hit .262 in 17 career World Series games. In 1936, he was honored by being inducted with the inaugural first class of the Baseball Hall of Fame, a class that included Walter Johnson, Christy Mathewson, Honus Wagner, and Babe Ruth. Okay, let's get into the collection here. As you can see, I have 3 Cobb items that I adore and cherish. Let's start with the one that I've had the longest, and that would be the autograph. This is a bank check that has been made out in Ty Cobb's hand with his signature green pen. I bought this back in 2001, I believe, so I've had it for, I guess, 23 years, which is crazy. I remember buying this unslabbed, and then a couple of years later, sending it off to PSA to be slabbed and authenticated. This is from later in Cobb's life, and it's to a telephone company, presumably paying a telephone bill. And it's a really beautiful autograph in the lower right, spelling out his entire name, Tyrus R. Cobb. It's a little flare at the bottom. Very consistent with the way he signed really his whole life. He made out this check July 2nd, 1959, and he passed away in 1961 at the age of 74. So he was about 72 when he made out this check. This is on his own custom check, Tyrus R. Cobb, but just a really nice example of a Ty Cobb canceled check. And this is a really nice way to own a Ty Cobb autograph and know with pretty good certainty that it's legit. Obviously, I opted to have this slabbed as well, but these were all good enough for the bank. So a pretty safe bet. If the check looks legit, the bank accepted it back in the day, that it probably is good. And there are a plethora of Cobb autographs still out in the market. They've just kind of slowly gone up in value over the decades, as I found them. I paid $500 for this when I first bought it, and that was a lot of money. That was one that really I had to save up for, and didn't take it lightly, this purchase. But I had a little bit of extra change back in the day, and I knew I would never regret getting a Ty Cobb autograph in my collection, and I haven't. So I'm really happy I bought this when I did. So that's that Ty Cobb autograph in my collection, one that I truly cherish. Next, this is a 2001 SP Legendary Cuts game used bat card for Ty Cobb. And anybody that's watched this channel for any length of time knows that I absolutely love this relic set because it is one of those sets that truly lets you know, hey, this is from an MLB game. And this is a very hard grade for this set. In fact, PSA has only graded 13 of these, and PSA has never graded a 9. The highest graded PSA examples are 8s. So that just gives you an idea of how tough that grade is. BGS has graded 19 examples, of which this is one of 10 BGS 9s, and there is one BGS 9.5. So there is only one copy of this card in existence graded higher than mine, which is a really cool thing. But yeah, just a beautiful card. I just love the aesthetic of this set. It's sort of no frills, no nonsense. Nice vintage image of Cobb finishing a swing. A nice, healthy chunk of bat. And a card that I absolutely love. And then last, certainly not least, the jewel of my Ty Cobb collection here is the 33 Sport Kings Ty Cobb. Just a glorious card. I love this set. And this is number 1 in the set, which makes it even more special. This is barely post-playing days. This came out in 1933. So this is 1933 Sport Kings gum, graded in SGC2 in the old slab. And I absolutely love this card. It's pre-war. Ty Cobb took his final at-bats in 1928. So we're talking 5 years post-playing days. So it really not that far after his playing days. It's about as close as you can get. But just a beautiful card. I mean, just good, honest wear. Nothing that really detracts from the eye appeal. No missing paper. A few creases there, but nothing that detracts from the overall visual impact of the card. The centering is decent. Again, doesn't distract from the card at all, but just a beautiful image of this card. The population on this, SGC has graded 284 in total. PSA has graded 671, bringing the total graded examples still in under 1,000, 955 total graded examples. So they're available, but not too available. So you can find them, but they're not easy and they're not cheap. Again, this thankfully one that I got before the boom, and prices have gone up and they have not come down. These pre-war upper tier guys, it just seems like they don't tend to correct. They don't tend to go down because the supply is so low, the demand is consistently so high. So just again, very, very grateful to own this one. 1933 Sport Kings gum. All right, well that is a wrap on Mr. Cobb. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been a delight sharing my collection in this format. If you are not subscribed to the Countdown to the channel, I highly, highly recommend it. In the coming weeks, we are on to the top 3 greatest and most iconic ball players in baseball history. Until next time, keep collecting and stay iconic.